Oh, yeah. What is up, my heterosexual life partners? How are we all doing today? Today is Monday, and it is almost fucking September. How crazy is that? We are in the last days of August of this crazy year. I thought 2020 was going to be just the crazy year, but now we're looking at obviously 2021 ending up even more crazier. I don't know what to tell you. I think it's going to get pretty fucking crazy. It's going to continue to get crazy. So we'll see how things are. But as for today, for me, it's a typical Monday. Went to jujitsu, went to the gym, lifted chest, came home, ate some food, and got ready to do this. So let's chat. Before we do, I've been going through my fragrances lately, and I decided not to steal, but to borrow a certain individual's style. I mean, the greatest what is it? The greatest compliment is mimicking, right? So today, I wanted to do this last week, to be honest with you. Actually, I fucking sprayed, had some fragrance on, was very happy with my choices last week and all this stuff. Had some of them sitting right here, well, the ones that I wore for that day. And I just forgot as part of my intro to just bring up what the fragrance was that day that I was rocking. So today, everybody, I am rocking Prada Luna Rosa Black. I am a huge fan of this. This is a good fragrance for a budget, so to speak, right? It's no more than $100. Actually, I don't know how it is right now with inflation. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but damn, a whole bunch of shit is just getting way more expensive right now. Things that I just never thought would be getting more expensive, but everything is expensive now. When I purchased this, I think it was like $85. If I'm being honest, I think I got it off of Fragrance X. I'm not sure if that's the one I use or if it's another one. I think I use Fragrance X though for my online ordering. There's another one that I don't like that I will never do business again with. So anyway, Prada Luna Rosa Black. I love this fragrance. It's a little bit if you don't like the powdery scents, it's very fresh. It has a little bit of like a baby powder scent to it. But then I think it tops it off with like a bit of sweetness too. I like to call it marshmallow. There's a little bit of a marshmallowy tone to it. It's not really like that. I just say it that way. But I will tell you this. This is a lady killer. Once a woman comes in close, man, I'm telling you, she's going to fall in love with this. You're going to feel good wearing it. Like I said, very fresh, very clean. It's not like a fresh or a clean, like a blue fragrance though. Like, they call blues blue because obviously they kind of like signify water in a way. And that represents kind of that clean feeling. A lot of blues, especially the lower costing ones, have this thing called ambroxan in it. I don't like ambroxan. I like ambergris. Ambergris is a really good addition to any fragrance, but ambergris is really expensive. So big perfumers and like, the main ones like Prada, a whole bunch of other ones, they use synthetic chemicals. So blues have a lot of ambroxan in it. Hate that smell. Anyway, getting back to the Prada Luna Rosa Black, I like this one specifically because it doesn't smell like any of the other crazy. Doesn't smell like any of your average consumer products. Like if you go to, you see like the polos and all these other basic fragrances. This is really good, really clean, really seductive. I get compliments every time I wear it. Every time I wear it and I go out, I get compliments. It's not a big projector. Doesn't mean that like projection means how it's going to project outward. So people have to get a little bit close. With this one, I recommend a good 4 sprays too. Chest, shoulders, back. You're good to go there. Really, really good fragrance though, especially for the budget. I love it. I love rocking it. It's really good. Philip Franklin says I'm still using Side Effect plus Ratio. I don't know Ratio. I remember one of my favorite combos was Side Effect and Rehab from Initio. What's up, Nick D? How are we doing today? What's up, everybody who's in the chat? We're going to get into a really good show today. For those of you, I just saw a good bump in. Just did a little fragrance of the day, Prada Luna Rosa Black. It also feels good to rock something that says Prada on it. I like wearing some of the designer stuff. Very, very clean. Very, very clean. Very clean fragrance. Very seductive as well. It's fun. Really, really like it. I've been using the Tactical Soap Bond roll-on fragrance lately. The ladies want to eat me. Somehow I doubt that. Was not a fan of any of the Tactical Soap fragrances. I'm going to be honest with you. Rehab is by far one of my favorites. I am all out right now. Very, very disappointed. Love Rehab. That was a good recommendation from Tommy Bahama. I actually believe I like it. So Side Effect was my favorite. Side Effect is still one of my favorites when it comes to date night. But for an everyday wear, Rehab is by far my favorite. By far my favorite. I need to get a refill on that. Anyway, glad to see you guys are in the chat watching live right now. Let's make sure we hit the thumbs up. Also, after this is over, if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment in the comment section, telling me what you thought you liked most about this, that'd be great. Either way, that's in an hour from now. Sharing would help. As you all know, I am shadow banned. It is official. They are taking subs from my channel, and they are not promoting my stuff. As you can see, too, what happens afterwards, after I finish this podcast, it takes about 24 hours for this podcast to be seen on YouTube. So it take by that point in time, any traction I gained from live viewership or comments or any of this other stuff is gone. So you going back and doing and posting a comment and sharing as well is something that's really going to help me out. Also, if you guys wouldn't mind, donate $1. That's all I ask for. Just throw me $1 every time you see me come up on here live. Hit the PayPal link in the description. Send me $1. That'd be awesome. It's going to keep things rolling. It's going to help me get to my goal, and it's just $1. With that said, awesome to have you guys in here today. And let's get on topic. So if you weren't present last week, hang on. I got to hit this comment real quick before we get rolling. I bought Jean-Paul Gaultier Ultra Male, and the skanks here in outer space can't get enough. That I wore that yesterday. One of my all-time favorites. I got a humble brag real quick. A little bit of a brag. I am not really a big fan of designer fragrances any longer. I've evolved myself and my scent to higher level niche fragrances, as Phil Franklin and I were just talking about. We're talking about Initio. It's one of my favorite houses. And Parfum de Marly. I'm a big fan of Killian now as well. Raj is pretty good. Few other houses that I really like. All of those fragrances are like $350, $400. Super expensive, super niche. That's my style. I'm going to share some of those with you guys as well as we continue, but I do have specific designer ones that I love. Cheaper. Hey, you know what? If it fucking smells great, so fucking be it, right? But some cheaper designers that I go for, like I'm a big fan of Versace Dreamer. I'll share that one with you guys later. All Saints has some really, really good fragrances. Jean-Paul Gaultier Ultra Male, though, is hands down in my top 5 lady killer scents. Like, hands down, I love it. It's a fun fragrance. You don't feel weird wearing it. You're going to get some looks. People are going to be attracted to you. I would put, as far as lady killers, Max Aroma's awesome. Scentbird's good if you want to just get samples. As far as lady killers for like top 3, I really want to put Side Effect in there, but I got a couple. Man, I can't just give 3 right now, but I love my Prada Luna Rosa Black. I love my Jean Paul Gaultier Ultra Male, and I definitely love my Parfum de Marly Leighton. Those are probably like the easiest ones. Yves Saint Laurent Cologne Blue. That's pretty good. I like La Nuit de l'Homme the best from YSL though. I mean, that's basic, but that's by far their best frag. Tom Ford is what got me into the fragrance spot. Tom Ford is always going to hold a very, very near and dear spot in my heart. I love their fragrances. Tobacco Vanille. Let me close this out. And Fucking Fabulous are my two. I own those personally as well. I also have Oud Wood. That's a robust fragrance. Ouds are very tough to wear, very formal. But Tom Ford's one of my favorites for sure. All right. Tom Ford fragrances are ratchet AF. You're retarded. See? Fucking Fabulous. It sounds a little gay saying that, right? Makes me think of a feminine. Never mind. Anyway, great fragrance though. Love that niche stuff. Really do. I'm the type of person that doesn't wear very masculine stuff either though. I don't, man, I'll get into that later. Glad you guys love fragrances though. So yeah, let's get into the conversation. So a couple weeks back, if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, I got Amongst Men 2 on Twitter. I post some gems every once in a while, have some good conversation. If you guys want to be able to DM me that, or DM me there, feel free. Oh, man, I should go over this later. But anything to stay away from and not waste my money on. I bought Jeremy Fragrance's stuff. I didn't buy Office. I bought Date. Was not a fan. Too much Abroxan in it. I'm not a fan of my least favorite fragrance. One that I wish like I could catapult out. Like trap and skeet and just fucking shoot with my shotgun. Sauvage. Sauvage is the worst fragrance I think I've ever fucking owned. When I first initially smelled it, I was like, oh, this is nice. This is fresh. This is clean. 30 minutes later, I was like, yo, get this off me. It did not mature well. It was gross and disgusting. What else do I not really like? I have Bleu de Chanel. I know a lot of people like that. Not a big fan. Not a big fan at all. It's really any of the blues. I really don't like blues. I think blues are overplayed. I think especially if you go with the cheaper stuff, you're really you're getting the Ambroxan in it, and I don't like it. And I just think that the blues were 290s. The blues were 290s. I think they're a good step away from the old school colognes, right? Those musky style, of fragrances for men. Yeah, original Hugo Boss, definitely a fan of. I'll wear it here and there, right? But I'm still, again, it's still kind of in the same tier. What else to stay away from? Ooh, what do I absolutely hate? I really wanted to like this one too, but Versace Eros, I really didn't like it. And I even have the red one too. Didn't like it at all. So that's enough fragrance talk, guys. I will pull up your questions in the end. We'll discuss those. All right, let's get back to it. So Twitter, I got Amongst Men 2, sent out a tweet that I thought was kind of important, especially moving forward in the way that masculinity needs to mature. What I said was essentially, do you lift? Yes. All right. Do you fight? If you fight, yes. Do you shoot? If you shoot, okay. Or do you do all three? Do you do any of them well? And I realized, especially moving forward, that the reason why those three things were imperative was we have too many men today that are adopting just one discipline, and they're becoming too myopic. And when they become too myopic, they're becoming way unbalanced. And they're thinking that just investing in that one specific area is going to save them. It's going to be the thing, right? It's going to help them out. And what I came to realize was there's no one thing. But there's these 3 things that you could do that will really, really help you out in being a well-balanced, optimized man, where you're going to be able to learn the most important values in masculinity and also for success later on in the future. So if you don't remember, I started off last Monday. And by the way, hey, so the reason why I didn't come on last week was because the scratching was just driving me fucking crazy. So I got a new cord. 1's in the chat if it's good, 2's in the chat if it's still scratchy. I think this fixed it. I hope it fixed it. So let me know. 1's in the chat if it's good, 2's in the chat if it's still scratchy. If it's 2's in the chat, all right, good. We got a 1. If it's still scratchy, then I probably have to get a new microphone. So, but got a new cord, so we're good. Had to wait. By the way, fuck, again, going back to this whole inflation business, the store that I go to in order to get a lot of this stuff fixed, it's a 1.7. So there's still some scratch, but it's better than it was before. Maybe we'll have to get a new microphone then. No big deal. I'll just have to fucking hook myself, go gay for pay for a little while. Yeah, right. Never happened. Anyway, store closed down. Fry's. This awesome, awesome store. Huge fucking store that had all the electronic components that you could possibly go to. Currently, there's no stores available that have anything in stock, so I had to go on Amazon, and of course, this shit fucking took a week to come in. So anyway, I wasn't going to come back on with super scratchy. It was driving me crazy. 2 subtle, 1.5, 1s. You guys are all over the place. Whatever. That whole cord was a bitch. I love it. So last Monday, we talked about lifting. I kind of brought up what the ideal look, what the ideal aesthetic, what the ideal strength should look like. At the end of it, really what I said was Apollo Costa looking motherfucker is probably the best direction you want to go. Someone who could gain muscle in the off season and then condition down for fighting and all that stuff, but focuses his lifting and all that other stuff around his fighting. Notice how I brought up lifting first and then fighting next. The thing that I'm starting to see today is this. I'm also seeing people become myopic in fighting. I don't see it as much as I see people going and becoming bodybuilders and avoiding fighting, because I think once you get into martial arts, you do realize, holy crap, strength does play a role, right? Having muscle mass does play a role in this. But I still do see a lot of people in martial arts who are fighting who thinks that that's all you really need to do. And that's a shame, right? That really is a shame. You should also be lifting. And I know it's hard. I have a lot of conversations with guys at the gym. Even today, like right after I finished rolling, I had a guy come up to me and he's like, hey man, I see you're fit. I see you're still in shape. I heard you said you were going to the gym. What do you do? What do you do to keep that balance? Because it's a really difficult balance. I'm struggling with that in my life right now. And I gave him the same answer that I gave you guys back on Monday. I periodize my year. I periodize my year where I focus one part of the year on lifting and building muscle and healing my issues while still going to jiu-jitsu, but just doing fundamentals, right? Just going through the drills, no sparring. Then the other part of the year where I'm at right now, I lift 4 days a week and I spar 4 days a week and go to jiu-jitsu and other stuff. Then as I progress into my jiu-jitsu and my conditioning's getting crazy and stuff, I just focus solely on that and I only lift 3 days a week and I do a full body for those 3 days a week and keep it pretty low impact. And then I go back into my next part. He's like, oh shit, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of miss, I feel like I have to do everything all at once. And when I do that, I fry out or I burn out and I can't make this happen, all this other stuff. So now I can focus on here. I was like, all right, good. Well, now you have the answer. Like now you don't have to stress yourself out worrying about losing weight or losing muscle and not being able to ever get back into it. Like now you know, and you have a plan moving forward. So What do I want to talk about today, though? It doesn't have much to do with lifting. It has more to do with fighting. And the key thing is this, like, as we discussed last week, sure, lifting is important, but what are all those muscles and what are you building your body for? Well, you should be building your body for fighting. Why is fighting so important? And this is the key thing I need to get across. Why is training a martial art or multiple martial arts, why is that necessary? Anyone in the chat, can you tell me why training martial arts is necessary? I'm not going to have a lot of dead space here, but I just want to get the chat rolling to see if you guys already knew before I stated this. We as a human species, we have evolved our brain to move away from animalistic instincts. And as a human species, we formulated the ability to think with this big brain and then also communicate with our mouths, right? I mean, we could even throw body language in there too, and all this other stuff. But what happened when we got this big brain? And we went to this new form of evolution where we went into problem solving and tool creation and working as a pack through communication. We lost the instinctual animal components of ourselves to be able to fight and defend. If you look at every aspect of a biological creature that exists on the planet today, every single creature has an instinctual self-defense mechanism. The rose has thorns. The bean has lecithin coated on it so that it makes whatever eats it get gas, so therefore it will never come back and eat the bean again. Right? Wasps have stingers. The fucking fly trap, right? It's what's it called? Every single thing, every biological creature, plant, animal, life form, whatever have you, it has an innate and instinctual self-defense mechanism. But we, as a species, gave that up to have consciousness. Now, it's not to say that we don't have some level of instinctual ability, right? We still have fight, flight, and what's it called? What is it? Fight, flight, and freeze. We still have those things that are deeply and innately ground into our brain, but we don't have an instinctual mechanism that's really there to defend against other things. Exactly. Animals don't have self-consciousness. That's exactly what I'm saying. We have consciousness. We gave up our instinctual animalistic abilities to become conscious creatures. And in doing so, we gave up that instinctual ability. But with that instinctual ability to self-defend and be an animal, right? In giving that up, we also now have the ability to consciously be able to train ourselves as a weapon. It's in the same category, right? We can now consciously fight. We can now consciously move our body. We can now calculate impact, direction, angles, all sorts of stuff. And we can also choose when and how, right? So what it comes down to is, this is going to get into like a little bit moralistic philosophy, but what it comes down to is, you as a human being also have a right to self-defense. This is an innate, call it God-given right for you to be able to self-defend. But what we currently have is this. We have a gigantic swath of the human population that has this right to self-defend, but they have no ability. They have no training. They have no, and I don't want to say ability. Ability is kind of a strong word there, because they have the ability. They just don't have the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not context. What I'm trying to say is most of these people, they just don't have the structure, right, to know how and when to apply it. So what we have is we have these rights that are freely given to you. I hate to say it in that manner, right? But with no ability to actually exercise that right. And that's why we see so many people today that are so willing to give their rights over to the government because they're so scared and so unwilling to train to hold that responsibility themselves that they give it over to a stronger entity. And that entity continues to just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until the point that even people like you, me, and others that are trained in this type of capacity are at such a great disadvantage when it comes to being able to self-defend. And I believe that's one of the ultimate tyrannies that's ever fucking graced this planet, honestly. So moving forward, this is something that I write about. If you guys haven't read my first, well, not my first book, but Purging Feminism, I talk about our failure to learn self-defense in that book and how it's one of the most egregious faults that we've gone down in our current society. I go a step further in my new book and I talk about how this needs to be one of the main focuses of our teachings and our traditions within a new culture. Everyone must be responsible for their own self-defense. Everyone should be encouraged through the tradition of the society, of the culture, to train martial arts and to train in shooting. And that's one thing I'm going to talk about next. But I'm talking about self-defense right now, right? No longer can we allow people to get away with pushing this responsibility, their own self-responsibility, onto another entity and saying, you are now responsible for my self-defense and my protection, which is what we've turned our police forces over into. People say, oh, I don't want to go through that stuff where I have to learn how to fight and defend myself. I don't want to possibly have to take a life of another individual. Instead, I'm going to give my tax money over to those people over there and then put all these social fucking pressures on them to come and save me. Because I paid them, they have to sacrifice their life for my safety. And if they don't, I get to bitch and moan about it. It's like, no, motherfucker. You should have been responsible. Your life is the only thing that you have. That is your most precious gift. And you don't know how to protect it? The fuck is wrong with you? I get it. I understand it. I really do. Do you guys really think that I want to train? That's a bad question. I'm a different fucking person. I understand this. Like I try to relate. I really do. I try to relate to so many different people in this world today, and I just realize like I am so fucking different from people that I'm unrecognizable. I really am. Like it's so weird. I actually really do fucking love this stuff. But there are definitely days where I'm like, do I really want to fucking go in there? It's 90 fucking 3 degrees out. I'm 240 fucking pounds. I got to put this rash guard on, and then I got to put this fucking gi on, and I have to go and do this stupid fucking warm up, and then I got to go get walked all over by whoever's over there, right? I'm like, I'm gonna have to breathe hard. I'm gonna sweat like fucking crazy. I might get hurt. I might jam my fucking fingers. All this other shit. You guys, there's some days where I'm just like, God damn it, this fucking sucks. But it serves a higher fucking purpose. And what's the purpose? It's the purpose of understanding that if shit were to get fucking real, I'm prepared. I'm prepared. I'm as prepared as I possibly can be. right? Everybody else just fucking quits and they say, that's too hard. I don't want to fucking do it. Like, and then they want to guilt trip me to be responsible for their lives. No, you don't fucking if you don't respect your life enough to fucking self-defend yourself, to learn how to defend yourself when shit really does get real, you have no right to fucking sit there and put any type of shame or guilt on me to protect your life. You have done zero investment in yourself to show that you really truly respect your life. And that's what I promote to you guys. I sit here and I say, how valuable is your life to you? How much effort do you put in to being able to protect your life? The best way to do this, and I'm telling you, there's so many layers to this. So I really can't go too far deep into this because there's so many layers to fighting. But it is your imperative. One, because the instinctual aspect of it has been removed due to consciousness. And two, it is your right. It is your right to self-defense. It is nobody else's responsibility. You know, people sit here and they bitch and moan and they say, I want freedom. You have the freedom. You have the freedom to choose too. But a lot of people make choices and then they put the blame on other people. And then living in a weak society, they then force the capable people to have to take care of the weak. And it just doesn't make fucking sense. And that's why we're in this shit we are in today. Now, there's one other major aspect that I talk about. There's a lot of men out there today that will sit there and this is one of my favorite things when people talk about fighting. They're like, yeah, I don't need to train. I'll just rise to the occasion. I love these rise to the occasion. I'll just Hulk out, bro. You've never seen me mad. I'll just Hulk out. I'll rise to the occasion when that shit happens. It's that easy. 1, 2, hook right to the head. That's it. That's all I got to do. I'm telling you, 95% of people will not. This is a good one. My adrenaline, my Hulk juice. I just fucking turn red, man. And there's no stopping me. There's no stopping me. There's a lot of stopping you. Trust me. You may ask an ignorant question. Those people that think that they're going to Hulk out, let them go up against someone who is less body weight than them, but has been training. And it is going to be an embarrassment. It's going to be a fucking embarrassment. There is no substitute for discipline. There's no substitute for discipline. For those people that think that they can just rise to the occasion, that may work. You may get a fucking puncher's chance when you're fighting against somebody else who is equally undisciplined as you. That's essentially what they're saying. Bro, I'm just going to Hulk out on a dude who is equally as untrained as me, and we're just going to roll the fucking dice. I don't like those odds. I do not like a 50-50. I don't like those odds. That's why I won't get fucking married, right? I know plenty of you guys in here who won't get fucking married because it's a 50-50 fucking chance that shit is going to end fucking badly. But yet, we know we are approaching some fucking crazy times. There is a tremendous culture divide in our country. There's going to be an economic downfall. Shit's going to get fucking crazy. And I've been warning you for the last year and a half. But yet, how many of you guys are getting prepared to fight? There's no rising to the occasion. There's no rising to the occasion on this. You have to prepare. You have to be disciplined. You have to. It's necessary. It's vital. Good word. So that's where I lead with this, right? Sure, you may lift. Sure, you may lift weights, but do you fight? What are all those muscles for if you can't fight? If you are fighting right now, kudos to you. Good question. How do you prepare to take life? I surmise to say this. I'll leave that up for a little bit. The number one thing that prepares you for taking a life is killing the boy inside of you first. The boy is trapped in the matrix. The matrix is the world of the mother who has taught you everything is fine as long as you're nice. Do not use aggression. Testosterone is bad. The world would be much better without war. We can just wish and love and hippie our way out of the situations. Bro, I love that. Bro, you haven't seen me. I just black out and fuck shit up. Exactly. I just turn into Hulk. At the end of the day, the red pill is about understanding yourself as a self-preserving organism, that your life is the most important thing to yourself, and you are not selfish for making yourself number one. The blue pill will have you think you need to be nice to everybody all the time. You need to sacrifice yourself for everybody else, sacrifice yourself for society. Thinking about death, contemplating death is scary. Just put it way off in the fucking back burner. That'll never happen to you. Death is just a disease. It's actually an oppressive force. It's racist, right? I, on the other hand, I contemplate my death. I think about death often. I think about what it would be like to be killed. I feel the pain of someone else fucking taking my life, of killing me. And I think about all the things that I hadn't accomplished yet in my life, all the things that I want to accomplish, all the legacy that I want to fucking build, right? How I want to impart my will on this world. And I simply make a choice. I make a choice. Me or them. Me or them. That's the shit you got to think about. Highly, highly, highly recommend you start doing some. I mean, there's some good reading on this. I believe Grossman wrote about this on Killing. It was a book that was recommended to us in the military. I would also, a lot of people get worried about this stuff as though it's an ethical thing. Morality is, I hate to say that morality is relative. There's different layers of morality. That's why morality and ethics have always been such a hot button topic, right? There's times that it's right. There's times that it's wrong. Everything matters about your intention, how you do it, XYZ, right? The other thing is, how do you prepare to take a life? You get into martial arts. This is the next thing that I want to discuss. Where do we go from here? What training do I get into now? How do I start fighting? What are the best routes? What is the best time? What's it called? Are you blowing glass? Are you studying chemistry? No. Where's this coming from? Keep it on topic. Here's my recommendation. When it comes to fighting, if you're new to this stuff, I really, truly believe. Oh, I see what you're saying. Start off with jujitsu. And if you want to get into stand-up, I recommend Muay Thai. Okay? Now, the only downfall is this. You're going to have to figure out your schedule. For me personally, I can only train 8 times a week. If I train any more than 8 times a week, I told you guys this. I have an old training age. If I train any more than 8 times a week, I am literally, I deplete myself too fast. So I only train 8 times a week. For you guys, if you're younger, if you have a younger training age and you have a young age, you could probably train 10 times a week. So what would that look like? Go to jujitsu 4 times a week, go to Muay Thai twice, and then lift 4 days a week. And you hit your 10 training sessions throughout the week, and you're really going to do well there. Me personally, I like to periodize my jujitsu and my Muay Thai throughout the year. And I have a pretty good extensive background in stand-up. I'm not going to claim to be really fucking good. I'm not going to claim to be really good, but I've sparred and fought with professional fighters, and I've done well with them. So I don't need to go and practice too often. It's something that can come quickly for me. However, jujitsu takes years for you to really start to grasp and become proficient in. Your first 6 months of doing jujitsu, you're literally going to feel like you have a fucking dick growing out of your forehead. That's how stupid you're going to feel, and that's how stupid you're going to look. And then one day, things are just going to click. Why do you want to base in jujitsu? I kind of talked about this last week, but from what I've found out is this. Gi jujitsu has been the best form of conditioning me for everything out of anything I've ever done. And this includes just focusing on stand-up and MMA for a while. Gi jujitsu, sparring gi jujitsu 3-4 times a week has conditioned me the best for fighting, for everything in general. The best. That's why I recommend jujitsu. Jujitsu is also very, as crazy as this sounds, very low impact on the body, especially once you start getting past the retard white belt stage and you start rolling with people that know what they're doing and you get into more of like a flow grappling sense. There's not a lot of things that go wrong, right? You're just going to have to adjust. But it should be between those two as well. Throw some Muay Thai in there if you really want to focus on your stand-up. Why do I say Muay Thai instead of boxing? You got 2 more fucking levers, right? Actually, let's throw in knees and elbows too. So now you have 6, right? You have 6 points of contact to train to fight with rather than just 2. Too many people, especially in fights, street fights, let's say, that's all they got. 1, 2. And they don't know what they're doing with those 1 and 2. Better for you to just start off Muay Thai, learn how to hit. You're going to learn boxing. And I got to get back to that with jiu-jitsu as well. But you're going to learn how to box. But then you're also going to learn how to move properly to know when someone's going to throw kicks or knees or elbows and all that other stuff. The other cool thing about Muay Thai is clinching. You know, John Fitch, I think he posted something up the other day on Twitter where he said something about how important clinching is in a street fight. And I could not, I fucking love that dude. I really do. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great mind. And he has a system. He has a system that teaches you guys this stuff, right? But he talks about clinching. And you can't really clinch in boxing, but with Muay Thai, you can learn the Muay Thai clinch. And that is a very, very aggressive, very controlling, very domineering position to get your partner into, especially in a street fight. Now, why jiu-jitsu as well? Why jiu-jitsu and not judo? Why jiu-jitsu and not wrestling? Well, the cool thing about jiu-jitsu today is this. Because of MMA and because of competitive jiu-jitsu, most jiu-jitsu academies are really, I'll show you what a clinch is, right? Essentially what it is you're learning how to grasp behind someone's neck, right on the back of the spine, and pull their head down so they can't posture up. So you're learning how to use your body weight to break that person down. And from there, you're able to throw hooks, elbows, and knees, and also be able, there's some pretty cool takedowns from a clinch too as well. Not to mention, when you clinch, you could see clinching. They don't clinch much in MMA anymore because a lot of people know how to get out of it, right? But back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s, the Muay Thai clinch was one of those things that really, really fucked people up. It takes a lot of energy out of your opponent because their diaphragm is squished and they're using everything they can to try to get out of that. So clinch is really awesome. Yeah, there you go. Every street fight ends in a clinch. Not every fight ends in a KO. Good stuff. Oh yeah, so going back to it. Why jiu-jitsu as well? Getting into the evolution of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu now practices a lot of stand-up. We really do. We practice a lot of judo throws, and we also practice a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of, but the necessary things that have been good carryover from wrestling, freestyle wrestling, into jiu-jitsu, into the stand-up game. So I don't know who the fuck you are, so get out of here. Freaking China person. Anyway, where was I at? Oh yeah. So that's another good reason for jiu-jitsu today is jiu-jitsu is still evolving. You know, the jiu-jitsu back in the day where it was just ground game, I could understand some people having a bit of a little bit of a disagreement. Maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, all this other stuff. But jiu-jitsu today, especially with gi and no gi, you're really going to learn a whole lot of good stuff. So those are the two disciplines that I really highly recommend beginners get into. Focus more on jiu-jitsu. The cool thing is, like I talk about, so hands will come. It'll take some time, but it'll develop a lot faster than your jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu takes a lot of time. That should be your primary discipline. I really, truly do believe this. With that said, there's one other point that I want to bring up really quick, and that is just having fighting strictly as a discipline. Why is fighting? So I mentioned the three disciplines, right? So lifting, fighting, shooting. Why is it a bad idea to just be a myopic fighter, just focusing solely on fighting? Well, the downfall with just focusing on fighting, and this is something that people will learn the more they get into fighting, is this. And most fighters know this, so I'm not really trying to knock on anybody, but I do know a lot of people that think that they're the end-all be-all just because they know how to fight. You also need to lift. Why do you also need to lift? Aikido. Get out of here with that shit. No McDojo stuff. That's okay. We'll get into that next. We'll talk about McDojo stuff. But first, I want to hone in on this, right? So just being a fighter, you also have to lift. Why do you have to lift? Most fighting disciplines are destructive. They're destructive to your body. I can already start to see it right now in comparison to where I was 3 weeks ago. My shoulders are already getting slimmer. My biceps are already starting to get slimmer. My lats are starting to get smaller. My body is conditioning and shaping itself to be a more efficient fighter. If you just solely focus on fighting, soon enough, your body is going to just be shaped into what's the myopic, best optimal for that sport, right? Much like a power lifter becomes that way, a fighter will become that way. I see a lot of jiu-jitsu players who don't lift on the side, and they're always in this kind of position. Because, so if you don't know this crouch position, this is what you do when you play a lot of guard, right? You're grip fighting, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff, you're using that so you could be able to roll. If you're not lifting, you're not you're killing a lot of your posterior chain, and you're becoming very forward. I forgot the actual terms for it, right? But like pronated kind of deal, right? So you need to also lift. Now, the thing next is this. You could be the best fighter in the world, but 110-pound fucking girl over there that's packing a fucking Smith & Wesson, or not Smith & Wesson. Yeah, it's Smith & Wesson. M&P Shield. Little fucking Antifa chick over there, right? Boom. Right in the fucking head. Dead. All that year of fucking training. All those years of training out the window. Right? Don't bring your fist to a gunfight. So that's a little bit of a downfall. I still see it a lot though. I see a lot of guys that are just strictly into fighting and they're not lifting. So we'll get into shooting next round or next topic, next podcast. But they fail to lift. And when they fail to lift, they fail to take care of their body. And because martial arts are very destructive, your longevity now of being in that sport, that discipline, goes out the window. So that's why you have to be well-rounded of adding in lifting. And if it doesn't fit your schedule, then sometimes you got to fucking take some time off, or you got to sacrifice a few days of your training in martial arts, like I talk about with periodization. That's why these things are very important. Now, I mentioned the 2 martial arts that you should get into. There's a reason why I didn't mention other ones. Okay? Do not go to McDojo shit. Let me back up here real quick. Do not begin your fighting discipline, your fighting journey with a McDojo martial art, is what I'm saying. Once you become proficient in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, once you feel like you have a good grasp, once you have the foundations, then possibly, if you want to, go check out another martial art and maybe borrow some concepts from it, but do not have them as your foundation. Someone mentioned Aikido in here. That isn't even a martial art. It's a bunch of bullshit, okay? Just like you see these fucking dudes that are doing like this whole chi thing and all this other stuff. Is there something to it? Sure, I think on the spiritual sense, absolutely. But in the real world, in this fucking reality of 3 dimensions and physics and all that other stuff, bunch of garbage. Bunch of fucking garbage. Karate, bunch of garbage. Okay? There are some karate fighters out there. Those guys actually fucking fight though. Right? This is another thing I have to mention when it comes to jiu-jitsu. When you train jiu-jitsu, you're training at 100%. There's no really like, oh, hey, do this position to me and then I'm going to get out of it and all this other stuff, right? Yes. If they don't promote full resistance sparring, it's a joke. It's really what it comes down to. You need to be put in real life situations to understand the nuances of fighting. It's all about angles. It really is. It's all about fucking angles. It's all about angles and leverage, right? Pressure, applying the right pressure in the right angles. If you're in a context that has GSP used karate correctly, sure. I mean, you could say the same thing about Wonder Boy, but they ended up adapting to mixed martial arts and implementing other things that made it real. That really applied to it, if that makes any sense. If he had just stuck strictly with being a karate dude, he never would have been the best in MMA, right? And also, GSP, the levels of fighters that are in MMA today, in comparison to when GSP came up, it's a completely different beast now. It's a completely different world. It really is. I need to put this up here. It emphasizes it perfectly. As a kid, my parents took me to a McDojo type Taekwondo school, and I got my black belt. Then I went to jiu-jitsu, and I found out quickly that stuff doesn't work well in a real fight. But I did learn some cool kicks. I think that's great. I really do. You learn some cool kicks, but it sets you up for fucking failure, right? Where you got a black belt as a kid, and you're like, oh, I'm a fucking ninja warrior. I'll kick the shit out of whoever. And then you go to this place that actually fights, real feedback. I don't think kids should have black belts anyway. I think that's a really bad standard to set up for somebody, but the karate schools have to make money, right? And your parents need to make it or have it seem like you're actually doing something. So, I mean, Taekwondo has its place. The kicks are fucking nasty. The kicks are brutal. Look at Joe Rogan's kicks. Like, fucking dude can kick like a motherfucker. But he's also adapted, right? Like, excuse me, got into jiu-jitsu. He's a double black belt. MMA, like, understands where it's placed. But he would have been better off, I believe. Anyone would be better off, especially where the fight world is at today. Starting off with jiu-jitsu, starting off with Muay Thai. I mean, I talk about how jiu-jitsu, for me personally, is the best for conditioning. The real best conditioning fighters are wrestlers. Wrestlers are fucking nasty. They're strong as fuck. They're explosive as fuck, and they got lungs for days, believe it or not. They can fight out of fucking anything. But the problem is, especially who I'm talking to right now, you really want to teach kids. You want to teach 12, 13-year-old kids to wrestle and have them progress through wrestling. You don't want to be 36 fucking years old getting into wrestling. Trust me. It's way, way, way too damaging. When I was fighting MMA, what was that? 10 years ago? So I was 26. Even at 26, wrestling was insanely difficult for me. Insanely difficult as far as the physical fatigue. And that's when I was at like peak shape of my life too, honestly. So wrestling's fucking epic. It really is. It really fucking is. But as far as the advice that I have to give to people who have no martial arts background or have a little bit or haven't been in martial arts for a long time, the best things to get into right now are jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. Hands down. If you want to get your hands going later on, go into boxing. Because a lot of people will sit there and say, hey, why not boxing? Boxing is as much as it is a sport, it's also a game. It's also a game. There's some silly strategies and there's some silly rules in it, especially like when it comes to the clinch and then pause, break up, right? The other downfall with boxing is that a lot of boxers throw their lead leg out way too far. And if you want to take a boxing stance with me in a real fight, I'm just going to kick the fuck out of your legs. I'm going to kick the fuck out of your legs. I'm going to eat that leg up. You're not going to have a base to throw those punches anymore. And it's going to end up pretty bad. We'll talk about weapons in the next podcast. Anyway, with that said, how many of you guys watched the Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley fight last night? I want to end with this. I want to have a little bit of a conversation about Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. One's in the chat for those that watched that fight last night, or if you heard about it. Anyway, what it comes down to is this. I watched the fight last night. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see, I didn't watch any of the previous Jake Paul fights. I don't even know who he fought first. Didn't watch the Askren fight because I kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. And I was just like, ugh, I was still pretty butthurt about this whole Jake Paul thing. Didn't know who this dude was. Really wanted to punch him in the face. Like I really wanted to punch this dude in the face. But then I watched last night and I sat there for a little while and I was like, why do I dislike this guy? And the reason why I dislike this guy was because to me, he embodies everything that is a child, right? A lot of childish antics, a lot of other stuff like this. Don't really respect the way that he came to fame and all that other shit. Really don't. But then I had an epiphany before all this really started. And I sat here and I said, you know what? He's on the same mission in a way that I am. If he can be this person that is kind of this childish social media zennial, but he found fighting and he decided to throw himself into the ring and become a role model for this sport of getting people into fighting, of backing up their words with fighting, especially if they have that much social clout and that ability to do so. He's on the same team as me. He's on the same team as me. He's trying to promote the same shit. He's using his medium, his platform to get these kids today who are so glued to their phones, who are so glued to their video games, so glued to social media, to sit there and say, holy fuck, this dude who is a fucking, like, let's be honest, like, he's not a fighter. He's not known for being a fighter, but he's converted that over. And he's showing kids, yo, check this shit out. Like, I went from being like a nobody, like not even an athlete, to just saying, I'm fucking doing this. And I watched the fight last night, and believe it or not, Nine's in the chat. He can vouch for this. But right before the fight, I said, yo, Paul's going to win. Jake Paul's going to win. I'm changing my vote. right? Because I wanted to see Tyron Woodley knock him out. But I saw Tyron in the back room warming up. And he was stiff and he was wide. And he was throwing his punches like a fucking mechanical robot. And I said, Tyron's not going to fucking do it. He's not going to do it. I've already went in there with suspicion, right? Because Tyron's not been able to pull the trigger his last fights. He's sat there and he sat back and he's kind of been like punch drunk in a way. But I was like, maybe he's not throwing punches because he's scared of kicks and takedowns, right? But then I saw him throwing punches, and the dude should have been fucking practicing boxing for the last 3 months at least, going through a camp. And he's still throwing punches like a robot fucking MMA dude. And I'm like, no way. There's no way he's winning this fight. No way. He's still going to be scared to throw punches, and those are not good boxing punches, right? Anyway, so I changed my vote to Jake. Come to find out, well, Jake ends up winning, right? It was an all right fight. I think up until the last 2 rounds, it was a pretty good knockoff fight, right? It wasn't like a good boxing fight, but it was a good, like, it wasn't like 2 idiots that were just up there like being like, hey, let's box each other, right? There was some actual boxing that was going on. Last 2 rounds, though, Jake was clearly fucking tired. And I don't know what the fuck Tyron was doing, right? To be honest with you. But one thing I will say is this. After Jake Paul won, come to find out, he sends out a message. He's like, hey, people, you know, I don't really care about the bullying thing that much. I really don't. I think dying on that hill is stupid. I think people, you're just like, you're never going to fucking end racism. You're never going to end people saying bad words. You're never going to end fucking people saying the word retard and making fun of lesser people. You're never going to end bullying. There's a reason why we socially evolved to have bullying as a part of our life, right? But everyone in their life should get fucking humbled, plain and simple. And I think that's what fighting really does, is it humbles motherfuckers and it teaches people to harness their power in a better direction. And come to find out, this dude started an organization where he is getting people, kids, into fighting. He's donating money in order to set up this stuff to get people to start fighting. So he's doing 2 things. He's changed his way of life to become this man, right? To show people like, hey, you can do it. And then he created something to get kids off the video games and all this other shit to get into fighting. Completely support that. Using your platform in the right way, that's fine. I also think that now that he's fought a full 8-round fight, I think he's going to be a lot more reserved, because I think that was something that was really humbling to him as well. Having to fight 8 3-minute rounds, he was exhausted. He had to go deep within himself. He learned quickly, oh, this isn't just a boyish sport anymore where I could sit there and fucking yip my mouth and knock somebody out within 2 minutes and it's that fucking easy. He had to go to some depths. He had to dig deep to find out what he was fucking made of. Do I agree with the whole sportsman side of things, of talking shit and all this other crap? No, not really. I understand it from a fucking marketing standpoint. But if he continues down this path to continue fighting and he gets better opponents and he has to go the distance over and over and over and over again, I think that's something that is really going to be able to help mature him and help him cultivate the true man inside him. And that's essentially what I'm trying to do in promoting the 3 disciplines as well in talking to you guys. So I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was a really cool physical thing that we could all grasp on and really understand that. I think that we're going to start to see more and more people get into fighting. I'm thinking that there's going to be a way for our society to revamp and re-engage into this stuff. And I think it's a really important message to be a model of a man who goes willingly into fights. Because the reality is, we're not going to make the world better by voting. We're not going to make the world better through any of the shit that's going on right now by marching and demonstrating. The way you're going to make the world better is by fucking changing yourself. And the best way to change yourself is through getting into a martial art. I'm pretty sure Jake just tweeted that he retired from boxing. It's because it was fucking hard, wasn't it? He did say last night that he wanted to take some time off and get some surgeries and shit. Who knows? I'm sure he'll be back. That the money is pretty fucking good. But anyway, yeah, we can all end hate if we just do what the ADL says. Exactly. I'm gonna scroll up real quick, see what kind of questions we got going on here. See what other shite. The gi is the best conditioning. Hell yeah, it is. No gi, if you know what you're doing, is pretty tough too, but gi is tough, man. What do you say to the guy who says you shouldn't go to the ground in an unregulated fight? In an unregulated fight. Are you talking like a street fight? I think you should train both. That's why I recommend Muay Thai and grappling. I don't think that your first strategy should be to take somebody down to the ground. Especially, I think what you mean also by unregulated is there could potentially be more than one fighter, right? That's the thing you really have to worry about with taking someone to the ground. If it's just strictly one-on-one, yeah, sure, take them to the ground. But if you're in an environment where somebody could come up, his friend could get pissed off, whatever, don't take the guy to the ground and mount him and all this other stuff, because now you're a sitting duck for someone to come and hit you in the back of the head. But the thing is this, if the fight ends up going to the ground, you're going to want to know how to get him in a position where he's not going to cause you any trouble, for you to get a strong position, or for you to be able to learn how to get back up. So it's just at that point in time, there's too many what if scenarios for me to be able to really describe what should happen. So that's why I say train both. Recommendation on reading: 1 Year in Hell. Normal Guy's Experience During the Balkan War. Complete collapse. Crazy. I like that stuff. Good recommendation. Boxing is a sport made for entertainment, not survival. I like that. That's a good way to say it. It doesn't mean that it's not practical. Doesn't mean that there aren't some things that you could take away from it, but having it as a foundation is not, I don't believe it's not a very good sport, very good discipline to have. Do. Oh yeah, already talked about that one. That was a good one. Should we pick fights on the street? No. No. I know this is kind of like a tongue-in-cheek joke, probably having to do with like a Fight Club reference or something like that. Again, anytime you get into a fight, there really is a 50-50 chance. You know, someone has a puncher's chance. The person who's more prepared and more disciplined has more of an advantage. But a street fight is there's too many variables. On top of laws. Even though I talk about it in this book. I talk about bringing back mutual combat. I think that mutual combat should be something instilled into a new society where two men can agree upon getting into a fight in public. I think that'll solve a lot more problems. I really do. If we're going to develop a warrior culture, you need to give warriors the ability to have that outlet, plain and simple. I listened to an interview with Tank Abbott, and even though he's not skilled, he did make a great point. Most of the MMA guys only fight when they know who they're up against, same weight class, etc. Absolutely. Listen, there's a reason why the phrase like pick your battles is there, right? Like that's also part of fighting. It really is. That's a part of fighting. You have to be smart about picking your opponent. You can't just go willy-nilly into fighting whoever all the time. Like that's a really bad way to preserve your life. We'll talk about melee weapons. What are the best melee weapons to train with? talk about that in the next show. We'll talk because we're going to talk about some shooting. We'll talk about that stuff. Unlike Tanker, the Street Fighter powerlifter guy that will fight anywhere, any one drop of a hat. In that aspect, he had more of a warrior spirit than sport MMA guys. He also grew up wrestling. Yeah, that was an old school mentality, though. That was also back when the discipline of fighting. Again, we're seeing this real time. We're seeing how the evolution of fighting is really coming mainstream, and we're bringing some of the most gifted people in the world into this arena. The greatest UFC fighter, hands down, the GOAT, the GOAT in the UFC was Khabib. We got to be honest. Khabib is the greatest MMA fighter of all fucking time. Of all time, up to this point in history. I'm a huge fan of fucking Anderson Silva. I'm a huge fan of John Jones. I really am. I think those two guys fall in line thereafter. Khabib is the greatest to ever grace the octagon. I think that's why he had to retire, because he was night and day above everybody else. Night and day. The dude's style, everything all the way up through it was just something that people could not figure out. And that's why also in my new book, I talk about military training, and I talk about what our military men will do as far as physical fitness and stuff is concerned. And having sport sambo is one of the things that I put in there as far as training is concerned, because I want my guys, I want people in my military to be the best fighters in the world, or train with and along the same lines of what the best fighters in the world utilize. And Khabib fucking did it. So we're still seeing the pinnacle of where the human body meeting the criteria of MMA is going, if that makes any sense. What's up, my dude? How we doing? Hit the like button. What do you think of wrestling for high schoolers? It's tough for competitive. I know several people that would go hungry really bad for a cut to make weight. Good. I have some thoughts on it. I think that's a little bit too. So here's my thought deeply on it. I don't think, again, I'm kind of giving you some spoilers of the new book. I don't like competitive sports for kids. I don't like competitive sports with the promise of them becoming a professional sports ball player in the future, if that makes any sense. I think that wrestling should be a part of the school. I think in order for them to do some competitions, they should be able to cut weight and do some stuff to learn the suckiness of it, right? That grit and determination for sure. But I also know a lot of guys that have had their growth stunted and all that other stuff. But they're also machines. They're fucking absolute machines, right? So it's a catch-22 in a way. I think that having some of that discipline there, I think having kids wrestle is really, really, really important. I've never met a more gritty individual than somebody who wrestles. Never. But I don't think that it should be something with the promise of stardom in the future. I think it should be meant for a tool to build. That's why I mentioned Sambo later on, because what I've done is I've made it so that every man joins the military, essentially. So what wrestling would be for kids is a foundation for them to begin to build their Sambo foundation moving forward. That ends up leading them into becoming true warriors. So I think in our current society, I think it's stupid. I think we put way too much pressure on kids to become sports stars way too early in life, and they don't end up developing into full adults. They only end up learning lessons from playing a game or a sport and don't really understand reality. Like, look at LeBron James today. That dude has no understanding of reality, of the real world. All he's ever done was fucking play basketball. And then you see why, right? Where he's at today. Hey, look at it. I was a high school wrestler. We do know that cutting weight can reduce your growth or height. Exactly. I don't think we should ruin somebody's genetic potential just for a sport. Especially when people are trying to, the high school kids are doing it so that a college can come and pick them up, and then they go to college and become a collegiate wrestler and all this other stuff. I think it's fucking stupid. So I don't think that it's smart for us to, make that a full-blown focus. It has been studied. What are your thoughts on Cali knife fighting? Real shit? No. I think it's stupid. The whole point of Filipino knife fighting too is to cut you as many times as possible. So that your opponent bleeds out, right? So they're not doing stabbing, slashing, or any of like these big ones. They're trying to cut you 1,000 times. And it's kind of dumb because if I'm carrying a gun, I'm going to shoot you in the head, right? Or you're going to cut me a couple times, and I'm going to figure out, especially being a bigger guy, I'm going to figure out a way to disarm you, right? Disarm the knife, and I'm going to fucking destroy you. So I don't think any of that stuff is really smart. Knives are scary as fuck, though. I'm not saying the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is practice knife fighting. You're gonna get cut. It's very, very difficult. But I don't think I would much rather have you practice real life fighting and understand martial arts than go into like a bladed fight situation. Khabib wrestling bears is pretty badass though. No American guy grew up doing that. Yeah, the dude's fucking insane. Absolutely insane. Got tons of respect for that guy. My high school forced me to wrestle once I tried out. I got so much time off of classes to train and go to tournaments. Hell yeah. Good shit. Yeah, shouldn't let kids do serious cuts. 100% agree with you. I think it's fucking stupid. I think having better weight classes, right, where they only have to cut a little bit, that might be fair, right? Like a set standard, but I don't know any way to regulate that. So I would just much rather like maybe not even have it. Just do, I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out in the future. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of competitive sports for kids. I think competition is good. I really do. I think competition is good. I also think you get enough competition in training. And the way that I would set things up is that kids going through those programs and stuff like that would rotate, right? So that they get, like every 6 weeks, they rotate and they get a new set of training partners and stuff like that, so that people continue to build on each other's strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. But I think teaching kids to compete that early at that level, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, maybe have having more weight class and smaller increments or something like that. Getting cut and stabbed is not fun, yet it may be something involved with profession. When balancing an SF, I had the risk of shiv constantly. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that. What he was asking was training knife fighting, though, like specifically as a martial art. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think that's another McDojo type of thing. I know a lot of Salat guys. You can learn some cool shit. I mean, for instance, fuck, look, I have my fucking karambit right here, right? I love karambits. I think they're great. But what they're going to teach you is they're going to teach you slashing with the karambit, right? They're going to teach you to cut different things. I don't think the second you bring this tool into a fight, that's the only thing that you're going to focus on, right? Oops. That's the only thing you're going to focus on. When a fight is way, 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 way more intricate and nuanced. There's still punches. There's still kicks. There's still submissions. There's all these other things. But now I just brought this one tool in there, and that's all I'm going to focus on. If someone's pulling a knife on you, You want to know the best self-defense tactic for someone pulling a knife on you is to fucking run. Don't turn your back and run away, but to gain as much distance from that motherfucker as possible. And when you're fucking backing up, grab some shit to use as like a shield or whatever. It sounds stupid, but I'm not going to get into a fucking knife fight if I don't have a fucking gun. That sounds stupid. But seriously, I'm not going to get into a knife fight. So what that said is if you're if that person has a knife and you're unarmed, you got to learn a few things, right? Yeah, but not an option on duty, bro. Well, I mean, dude, I'm an executive protection specialist. I've been to all the fucking training, all the schools. I mean, I've done a bunch of security. I understand what you're talking about. It's just I don't think I understand. Like, why would you train knife fighting if you're on duty? Are you going to pull out your knife? I know for a fact that, especially in the state of California, if you're in any type of security position, you can't carry a knife. You shouldn't be carrying a knife because that's considered it's considered a weapon now, right? And you have to have a carry permit for that weapon if you're on duty. When I went through my executive protection course, they taught us how to defend against knife attacks. So that's really what you could prepare for. But at that point in time, what you're training is martial arts. So, I mean, I think that's the best thing. And then, yeah, don't train to knife fight, but train for a knife fight. Essentially, right? Train to defend against a knife fight. Or we could talk about it because we're going to talk about it next episode. Get your fucking CCW. Get your CCW and carry a fucking concealed weapon. You want to come at me with a knife? If you come within 20 fucking 1 feet of me, I am going to shoot you. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. Don't train to knife fight, but train for knife fight. That's essentially what I was saying. Yeah, it makes sense. But anyway, carry a fucking gun. Shoot. Guess what? London, England. If you guys had guns, you wouldn't have these fucking knife problems, right? Yeah, I know. I've been waiting for a fucking year. I've been waiting a year. Anyway, have someone take a magic marker and wildly swing, slash, and stab at you. You'll be marked up even if you don't get a hold of his hand. Absolutely. It's insanely crazy. Constitutional carry goes into effect September 1, September 1st in tax. Is that Texas? That's awesome. Long live the Republic, right? Yeah, there we go. It is Texas. All right, guys. Well, we went a little over the time limit today, but I don't give a fuck. This was a good chat. No more questions. No more questions. With that said, guys, if you enjoyed the show today, do me a favor, hit the like and also share. As we talked about in the beginning, I'm shadow banned. There's no way for this content to grow. There's no way for this channel to grow unless you hit the share button and talk to your friends about me. Give them this stuff. Let them know. If you wouldn't mind helping out too, throw a comment in afterwards. Give me a comment about your favorite fragrance. Give me a comment about your favorite fighter. Give me a comment about what type of fighting or training you do as well. Just to give you guys a refresh, the fragrance of the evening was Prada Luna Rosa Black. Fucking bomb. I'll bring you guys a nice new fresh fragrance this next go around. So stupid. With that said, also in the description below is my PayPal link. If you guys wouldn't mind, just send me $1. That'd be fucking awesome. Sending $1 helps. It all adds up in the end. So much appreciation on that one. Don't know when I'll be back. It'll either be Wednesday or Friday. Depending on how I'm going to listen to this and see how bad the whatever is, and then make a plan as to what's going on. So with that said, guys, I depend on you to help grow this. So please do, like I said, like, share, do all that other stuff. Got a $10 super sticker from my boy, Greg Dixon. If you guys don't want to spend that much money, please, please, please hit the link in the description, paypal.me/Corey Capella. Send $1. Cool beans. Until next time, guys. Adios.